We're keeping it rolling. We're rolling down the river.
We sure are.
Current.
Rolling down the river. Oh gosh, I've like missed all these water puns. I'm so bad at them too. They always take a few extra seconds to like hit me. But yes, we're cruising with our team by team previews. The season's coming up, March 25th. It all starts. The regular season underway. No more Challenge Cup preseason for the NWSL this year. It's going to be a mid-season tournament. So right on the 25th, we right out the gate. Opening games for these teams. It'll be here before you know it. And you can watch all the games on Paramount Plus, which is very exciting. But I am really excited to dive into Kansas City with you because this is the team we talk a lot about on Attacking Third. And we got a lot to talk about them. A lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of questions. We got a lot.
All that matters is that we're starting it off with puns. Who doesn't love a good preview full of puns? We're here to provide, as always, March 25th, right around the corner. It's going to be here sooner than we think. Paramount Plus, CBS Sports platforms, you can catch all the action. Let's start with an overview here for Kansas City current head coach Matt Potter in his second year with the team. And they finished in 2022 as the runners-up in the NWSL Championship final. They lost in the final to Portland Thorns FC. And we had a lot of fun that week, kind of, experiencing the entirety of the event, getting to chat with so many folks involved with both teams. And the Kansas City current side of things, it just sort of really felt like this a bit of we've arrived kind of moment for them. And took us, a little bit by surprise. I think when we were watching that final to see them look a little stagnant, a little bit almost. And it was a near first or worst to first kind of finish for them. And that was a big storyline for them leading up into that final as well. But they've made some moves in this offseason to try to get back there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had to do that, right? This is a KC side that from the very beginning has said what they want to be in this league, what kind of team they want to be, what kind of club, what kind of franchise in this league. They want to be looked at as one of the best on the pitch, off the pitch, with their facilities, with their training staff, with their mindset as professionals. And I think 2022 really showed us that they were going to make that a reality, that they were taking it very seriously, going from finishing dead last in the league to ending up in the final. And with that and all the changes that they made throughout the offseason, they were looking to make their already good roster, their NWSL Championship roster even better. What could they do to make it better? And they looked at the free agency roster list and they said, we want all of these players. Essentially, that's what they said, because Kansas City in the offseason, they picked up Morgan Gautrat and Vanessa DiBernardo to midfielders from Chicago Red Stars, veterans in the league, veterans playing alongside each other, two players that will fit in seamlessly to this roster. Then the biggest free agent of them all, Brazilian international Debinha, midfielder, Kansas City snags her somehow. I mean, Debinha saying, we like their facilities. I like what Kansas City's doing there. And a pretty penny for Debinha on her end, because that's what she deserves. And before you know it, Kansas City's already really good midfield has just become fantastic, perhaps a little overcrowded, but fantastic. And that was only in the free agency window.
Yeah, they made moves everywhere. Look, we gave this team the offseason grade of an A+. They were winners of the offseason for us. And on paper, everything that they did in the offseason was to improve their chances on not only returning to the championship final, but winning titles. So whether that is an NWSL Championship or the NWSL Shield or, even Challenge Cup, something that's going to run concurrently with the regular season in 2023, there's a lot out there up for grabs coming up in this season. And Kansas City's move sort of signaled to me that they want to try to compete for all of it. And it's not just that free agency period. I mean, we saw this team dabble in trades during draft week, and they also made acquisitions in the international windows. So not only did they, were they part of a multi-team trade and ended up getting moving up in the standings for the number 2 pick and ended up selecting Michelle Cooper. They also selected Alexis Spanstra, someone who was rated even in the draft in last year, and had her on draft boards when we were doing all of our draft previewing in the offseason of 2022. So this was a player that was targeted from, I think other teams as well. So to kind of walk out with the draft day haul that they had, I thought was equally as impressive of all the work that they did during the free agency window.
Yeah.
So they work the free agency period, they work the draft, they also go out and acquire 2 Swedish internationals, not one but 2, in defender Hannah Glass and Mimi Larson, who I think that was one of their earlier signings of the offseason, and that kind of got pushed to the back burner a little bit because they kept making all of these moves, and like there was a new headline around this team, it felt, in the offseason almost every other week or so.
Yes, this is insane. Like the amount of players that they've got and that they've acquired, because I don't know. That's like the craziest thing. It's top tier across the board. Top tier in their free agency, 3 starting caliber midfielders, top tier in their draft picks, 2 players. I mean, number 2 overall in Michelle Cooper, and then even Alexis Spanstra, who's been now signed a contract with Kansas City. These are 2 players that could start, right? And on another team in the league, they might start. I'm not so sure at this point, just looking at the depth and the talent that KC has. And then they go and get Hannah Glass and Mimi Larson, 2 players that are Swedish internationals. They could also start. So it's like scraping the top of the barrel across all fronts, from trades to draft to what they picked up in the free agency. They've added a lot of pieces. And with adding those pieces, so much of it is a balance game for teams and what they're doing with adding pieces, and also what they've lost in the offseason or due to injury, trades, retiring, etc. And Kansas City gained a lot more than they lost in the offseason, in a lot more. We talked about how during the draft, Kansas City made a number of strategic moves and trades to draft up and go number 2 overall, getting Michelle Cooper out of Duke. And they had to trade with Gotham FC to get that. And the price for Gotham FC was U.S. international forward Lynn Williams, who unfortunately did not play a lot of time at all last year with Kansas City. She played a handful of games during the Challenge Cup at the start of the year, and then was out the rest of the season due to injury. So I would argue didn't even see time really in Kansas City. Such a limited time that it's almost like, okay, they're not as much losing her because they didn't really have a full grasp on her. Even though Williams is back completely, she's playing with the U.S. senior national team, played in She Believes Cup, getting significant minutes. I think that the trade-off, though, is okay for Kansas City in losing Lynn Williams.
I mean, it's not just an experienced player and someone like Williams. I mean, they also made a move with All Rain, Elise Bennett, now with the Pacific Northwest team versus, retaining another season with Kansas City Current. So I mean, they're not going to have her to go to, and she was kind of this evolved into like this option for them off the bench after having a pretty successful Challenge Cup appearances with Kansas City. And it just sort of felt like she was a player that they could go to and bring into maybe, second half or late game scenarios to try to change things up, kind of like a maybe a little bit of an X factor type of role a little bit. But they also bid farewell to Taylor Leach, right? Announcing retirement as well. That's something that happens over the course of the offseason. So losing some different players, but that just seems so minimal when we sort of compare that to kind of the gains that they made over the course of their offseason. Again, whether it was during free agency, whether it was during the trade, or if it was during just regular signing and acquisition.